Hello, 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 and welcome to Courageously Kind. I'm Maddie.
And I'm Liz. We're twin sisters and best friends.
Together, we share stories of especially kind humans doing especially kind things in hopes that these conversations motivate and inspire you to be kinder to yourself and others. When we're not speaking with an incredible guest, we'll speak directly from our hearts about what it means to us to be courageously kind. We had such a great time talking with this guest that we actually are doing something we've never done before. We're going to split this into 2 episodes.
You know, this conversation was so inspirational and eye-opening that none of it could be taken out.
Yeah. So we had the pleasure of speaking with Joshua Thomas Gray, a filmmaker that we found on TikTok, who just completed actually this really beautiful project where he took video portraits of strangers as a way for people to build empathy and connect on a deeper level with each other. It's just such a cool project, and we were so psyched to get to talk to him. So this week, this episode is going to be about that project specifically, as well as just kind of a candid chat about social media and what it's like to be a content creator nowadays. Next week, we have a really interesting discussion about his solo trip to Iraq. You're not going to want to miss that. So cool and so eye-opening. It was just such an amazing conversation, and we can't wait for you to hear it. Could you just start us off by telling us a little bit about yourself?
I'm like from a tiny farm town on the border of Canada. We're actually closer to Vancouver, Canada than Seattle. Yeah, from there, I kind of got into video through high school, and that kind of opened this entire like creative flow. I just loved it so much. I was like, this is awesome. We would make this was before YouTube and all that. I mean, nobody was doing, it wasn't much of anything yet. So I was like literally like getting all my friends together and like, hey, let's make these videos. And I would like write it, direct it. I would like be in the video, and then I'd go to school and I like edit on these old Macs, and we would burn it onto a DVD.
Whoa.
So that we could go home and we'd put it in the DVD player and then we'd just watch it, and it would be like, nice. And then we go and just make more stuff. Like that was it. There was no pressure. Like I just started in the world before social media happened. Like it was happening at that time, but it wasn't a thing people did. So I had this moment of like finding what I wanted to do without any of that pressure of social media, where it's like, you made something, you should post it. Like, oh, like make sure that you post it. And then you're just like thinking about how people, what you've created. I had none of that. We were literally just like some dudes in the middle of nowhere, Washington, just like making the dumbest stuff just because we wanted to. And that was it. And then it would just a DVD and no one would ever watch it again. So I think that's like really awesome. And sometimes I think it makes sense, like people are just starting on like video specifically, because that's kind of taken over the world. Like even you guys are making videos on TikTok, and it's like you have no formal training or knowledge on how cameras work or any of that. And you posting your stuff for the whole world to potentially see. And it's just like, oh my gosh, the stuff I was making was so terrible. I couldn't imagine if masses were watching that. It would be so potentially devastating. But also on the flip, like it has unlocked a lot of opportunity, especially like how you guys are coming at it with like, hey, there's like something we could do here that could have an impact on culture in a positive way. So that's a little different because you're putting a purpose and heart behind something. So like quality and all that doesn't matter as much. It's more the heart of it. And as you keep going, it will just get better and better and better. But yeah, so from that, I got into photography. Photography was like the first thing where somebody asked me like, hey, could you take pictures for my senior photos, like high school senior photos? And I was like, heck yeah, that sounds awesome. So I did those, and they paid me. And that was the moment oh, I can make money doing this. And that changed everything. And I just went full time. I stopped doing video really and just totally went into photography because I was like, I can do this all by myself. I don't need like other people to be in my video. And video is just so hard. Like every element has to be perfect or the whole entire thing sucks. Photography, you go out, take like 300 photos, curate it to like 30 really awesome ones, and you get like one amazing photo. And it's just like, oh, yes, this is awesome. So from that, I just like started, another person asked me to do their senior photos, and then they paid me like $100. And mind you, I'm like first year in high school. And I was just like, holy cow, this is it. I could definitely do this. So I just was super focused on that and then started shooting weddings, and then senior like portraits were after that, and then everything. Like people would be like, hey, do you take pictures of dogs? And I'm like, yo, I love dogs. Of course I take pictures of dogs. Let's do it. And so I learned just by trial and error. And like right at that time is when there were starting to become like YouTube content where people were like teaching. And so there were some like professional like photographers who were in the industry currently making content teaching on sets. They would be like, hey, I'm with REI today and we're going to walk through everything on how we did this whole entire production. So I just watch all of that. And at the time, I was just like, all I was thinking about and doing was like shooting and learning and trial and error, just like what you guys are doing with this podcast. Like you just keep getting better and better just by doing it over. And you learn really fast because you see yourself and you're like, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound good. Will be better. Oh man. Like, so compared to just listening to someone tell you, it's like you do that, then you go do it, and then immediately you get better. So from all that, that's kind of like how I got into photography and filmmaking, which filmmaking came back because photo cameras started doing really good video. So I was like, oh, sweet. I'll buy one of these cameras that can also do really high quality video, and I'll start offering video as a service for companies, and I could make money doing that as well. And so that all kind of like fast forward a little bit, and my sophomore year, I was in a relationship at my then girlfriend, now wife, and we actually got pregnant when I was a sophomore in high school. And she had just graduated. She was already out of school. It was right at the end of the year. My whole life changed instantly from that, learning that I was like going to be a dad. I was like, okay, that changes everything. But thankfully at that time, I already knew, I was like, I want to be a photographer. Like, that's what I want to do. So I was looking into like attending the community college, because like as a high school, go to community college instead of high school, because I was like, I don't want to go to high school and be like, because we actually got married, and I did attend like the last month of high school, like married, which was hilarious. I was just like, I'm not going to learn or be able to work. I'm in school.
Yeah.
So I didn't like drop out or not. I just literally go. I just started shooting weddings and working. And then I opened a studio in my hometown and just started my career.
Yeah.
Which was, it was kind of out of necessity. It was like, I was like, I don't want to be statistic.
Yeah.
I don't want to end up just doing a job that I don't want to be doing and like struggle the whole time. Like I want to be able, although it was like, obviously yes, we're like teenagers, and yes, it's going to be hard, but also like ultimately I don't want to just continue that trajectory of what like statistically will end up being. And so that kind of was a huge motivator. And if that didn't happen, like I don't know if I'd be doing all the stuff I do, because it
Mm.
pushed me to go full time into this career. And then my wife ended up having a miscarriage like a month or two into getting married.
Mm.
So, which was another just like huge altering, like, wait a minute. So now we're married, like I'm just full time to my career, and we're not going to be okay. So that just like again changed the whole trajectory of what my life was going to be like. And yeah, so that was like years of that. And then I just started doing video because I really was interested in the storytelling aspect of video throughout this whole time. I was just like shooting weddings and portraits and stuff like that to make money.
Yeah.
But really there was just this itch for video and storytelling. And I just kept pursuing that and doing that over and over and over again, and just getting, I mean, the videos are so bad. It takes so long to get good at making videos. But yeah, so my stories are always so long. You sent me your thing and you're like, oh, it's like 15, 30 minutes. I'm like, yo, that's going to be just like my, hey, high school to.
It's all good. It's all good. We love it.
So we found you via TikTok. For those listeners who haven't seen your TikTok account, can you tell us a little bit about this exciting new project you're working on now?
So I think we're at like day 70 or person 75 of, I've just like during the pandemic, I kind of stopped making anything.
Mm.
Like we were just kind of stuck somewhere where I didn't know anybody. And a lot of what I previously was doing was more like documentary in style, like going and filming and travel. So it was like I just couldn't do any of those things.
Yeah.
And so I just wasn't making anything. I was like content that I'd shot previous trips and things, and like just making miscellaneous weird content and just like trying to like grow an audience.
Yeah.
Goal has always been just telling stories that inspire, give hope, and cause action. And that's got more and more from the trips that I've done, which kind of then leads to this idea of we have an opportunity to bridge a gap of empathy and understanding through this medium that we're doing right now, and posting real people on these social media and telling their stories in a way that humanizes them, and actual other people can then go, oh, I can understand this person now, and I can see them for what they are, which is they're no different than me. And so through the whole pandemic, I wasn't doing anything. And then I started like getting into I started like toying around with this idea. A lot of the things I had shot, if I had a person and was kind of highlighting their story, I would take these slow motion video portraits of them. So I had like a handful of these like slow motion video portraits. And I was like, there's like something to this, like this video photo, but it's slowed down and it's just really just the person's face.
Yeah.
And honestly, it just came out of a lot of thinking what this could be. And then finally it was just like, I'll just go out the door and I'll walk around and I'll just walk up to strangers and ask them if I could just take a video portrait of them. That's it. We don't know anything about it. People are like, are you going to ask questions? I'm like, I don't want to know anything. Like nothing. We're just going to take a video portrait of you, and then I'm going to play the video of your face. And that's the whole video. And they're like, okay. And so, yeah, it's been this ongoing project now that it's gaining like a lot of traction on TikTok. TikTok's just awesome. Like the community on TikTok has been so much better than every other social media platform. And I hope it can preserve in that we can keep fostering this type of behavior on social networks. But like, yeah, the idea is I'm walking up to strangers on the street, asking them if I could take a video portrait of them. And it's a way to build empathy between people. And yeah, the idea, I was like, I bet if I just hit people as they're scrolling on their phone with this slow motion, nice looking video of a person, people would be like, what just happened?
Yeah.
And then if they watch it and they see what the purpose is, then it's more of a like a pre-workout for empathy. It's like a very safe, a very simple experiment where I'm like, I bet if people actually did this every day, if you came to my thing and watched my video every time we release one, I bet you will actually in real life start practicing more empathetic behavior. Because, and I think it is, I've had lots of people say like, oh my gosh, like I started noticing people that I just never even thought about when I'm out and around town. And so I'm like, that's totally it. So now we just got to figure out what the next step is. Like, what's the like now let's start doing things. We'll keep doing this. And as it stirs people to just see a person as a person and that's it, and go, wow, okay. Then they start noticing people in their real life. Like, how do we then get to the point where then we start treating people in our real lives more as if they were us or a family member, and just without any of the preconceived thoughts that we have of people. That was the long answer to how I came up.
Perfect.
I don't know if I really like came up with the idea. It's just kind of over all the things I've done started happening.
Yeah.
It's like incredible that there's no words. It's just staring into someone's eyes, and there's really a connection there that you can't even put into words.
Yeah, I like not until like day 30, my wife was like, we should like look up, like we should Google if there is anything to with like empathy and looking into people's eyes. And dude, if you just Google it, like there's a bunch of research that's gone on that there is a lot of data that shows that just looking into another person's eyes like is pretty unexplainable currently. I mean, there's some scientists like doing research and figuring it out, but it's just something really powerful about looking into people's eyes.
Yeah. It made me notice too how much I don't look into people's eyes.
Yes.
Like I'll have a full conversation with somebody and be like, I don't really think I like looked at them.
Yeah.
So it's such an incredible reminder.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's been not that exactly, but yeah, I realize that too. A lot of the time I'm literally like looking over here, or because that's something too, like when we're thinking and talking, we actually do tend, like your eyes do go to certain areas, and a lot of the time it's not at somebody's eyes. And also if you stare at somebody's eyes the entire conversation, then it becomes a little like jarring and uncomfortable. So you don't want to do that. But like if you didn't make any eye contact in the entire conversation, then yeah, that's like missing an opportunity to make a really good connection with another person. And this is even as simple as like you're getting and you know, spend the moment to look into the eyes of the barista or the person who's checking you out, as opposed to just being on your phone or pulling out your wallet time and just being like in a rush. But yeah, that's kind of the idea of it, is to translate to real life, and people think in real life like, oh, where are places that I could slow down and take a moment to, enjoy the moment. Especially too, these were things I didn't even think about, like the pandemic. Like we had so fewer interactions with people, and then specifically strangers. Like a lot of people had none.
Yeah.
And so this whole coming back into life with all these people that are in your community was just like flip a switch, and it's supposed to be like normal again to just be hanging out and talking and looking at strangers. And so a lot of people have commented like, holy cow, this has been like a really awesome process to go through on your channel as we're like re-entering society.
Yeah.
And it's like, I didn't think about that at all. And I've been making content for like 2+ years. And honestly, the other stuff I make was so much harder to do and more expensive, but like doesn't get many views or anything. And the whole idea for me is like, I want lots of people to see this. I want lots of people to experience and see other people. That's the whole point. It's not to make like me famous, but I want to tell the stories of other people to make this, like, to inspire people, give hope and cause action, build these bridges of empathy and understanding, like, which came really clear in my trip when I went to Iraq,
Yes.
the northern region, Kurdistan. But it's like, I went and did all that and like made content and got very little views. And I'm just like, I'm constantly just thinking like, how can I be relevant in culture, but not jeopardize my convictions and goals of what I want to accomplish in my life, and not just, do what is flashy and cool and is going to get a million views. So it's been years of just trying to make content that seems relevant, but always knowing like, man, I don't know if it's ever going to be lots of people watch. And then this happening and popping off on TikTok was, well, TikTok in general, TikTok for the first time was a social media platform that like, it actually kind of liked my content that was like deeper and more meaningful. And it was like, hey, yeah, we'll show that to some people. And actually my, some of my content from Iraq is the first stuff that went pretty viral, which is just so crazy to me because it's been, I went like in 2019, like that's old content.
Yeah.
And it didn't get barely any views on any other platform. So it was really validating to have like a platform's algorithm finally push it in front of people, and for people to like be like, oh, this is like accomplishing what I've always wanted, but never knew if it was going to be, would understand it or like it or anything, because it just never got in front of people.
Yeah.
If that made sense.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely.
I totally agree with what you said earlier about hoping that it stays this way.
We've been really lucky. It's been really kind to us. We were really scared starting it. We were like, oh, what are we signing up for?
Yeah.
Having such a kind of wide and broad audience
Yeah.
of it can reach anyone was really scary, but we've been so lucky.
Yeah.
We're really
All the
grateful.
response has been really
Wow.
TikTok has led not to be like a TikTok maxi, but like it has given me the driving force of what I'm wanting to do with my life, to like hundreds of like videos, not like TikTok videos, like YouTube videos, like paying my own money to travel to other countries, and then spending 100 hours creating videos, to just being like, hundreds of people watch it. And but there's such a conviction that even hundreds of people matter.
Yeah.
Even that was enough. I'm like, that's enough. Like, if I just don't stop, then potentially, like, the pendulum, like I was saying, will swing. Like, people will get sick of what is not helping their life. Like, it's not making them happier people. And so potentially in the future, it'll swing. And then TikTok, just like the people who are being vulnerable on TikTok has been so inspiring to see, because it's like, oh my gosh, it's happening. Like what I have thought and the opportunity I saw is like on a mass scale, people who were like, who would have posted something on YouTube, the comments would have just been trolls, just like horrible. I mean, just, I'm sure you know, like
Yeah.
they just, every single thing about you, they just rip it apart, about your looks, about how you talk, about just everything. They just come up with the craziest things to say that no human would ever say to an actual person in front of them. And they would just sit there and just write the most horrendous stuff on YouTube comments, would just be insane. And the views were never that many either. So it was just like, why would you put yourself through this? Like, why would
Yeah.
somebody put themselves on the internet for like maybe thousands of views to then just get hundreds of like the worst hate comments you could ever receive from people?
Yeah.
And so it was just like, that's not going to happen. But then TikTok, there's just been this like, dude, there's this dude who's deaf and blind, and he's a woodworker.
Yes.
Have you guys seen this guy
Yes, he's
on
so
TikTok?
cool.
Incredible.
Amazing.
Yes.
It's like mind blowing. Like why his content couldn't work on YouTube or Instagram makes no sense, because what he's doing, it doesn't make any sense. I do not understand it. And he's so cool, and them together are just adorable.
Yes.
And he's not like, not trying. They're not like, hey, we're gonna like be something. No,
Yeah.
the dude's just been a woodworker. He's still a woodworker. He's like, yeah, I can't see or hear, but like I can make this beautiful, complex, like, how do I know? Because like I can feel this and I know what it probably looks like in this one, and then I can keep them all organized. And I'm just like, dude, that is so incredible. And by him just sharing his authentic self and getting millions and millions of views, all of a sudden my ideas of what a deaf and blind person is have completely shifted.
Yeah.
Totally not the same anymore
Yeah.
Yeah.
because of this one guy.
Yeah.
And TikTok's algorithm that is actually pushing to the masses stuff that like other algorithms aren't.
Mhm.
And that's just like one. There's so many funny like people. I don't know any of their names or anything, but like, you know, like paralyzed people that are like in wheelchairs and stuff, and like,
Yeah.
but they're like comedians
Yeah.
on TikTok that just get so many views.
Yeah.
And it's just like, dude, and then the comments are all awesome. Like,
Yes. Yeah.
and people, it just feels so different from the past, and it feels so like, okay, this is it, and we need to like double triple down with all these people and like really help foster the community to stay this way and bridge that over to the other places.
It's really, really cool. And I think we're just so grateful to be able to sort of get into content creation at this point in time. If you liked this episode, you are in luck, because next week we'll have Joshua back to talk about his solo trip to Iraq. It's an incredible story filled with courage and really eye-opening, especially for us who don't really know that much about Iraq. To hear his story about his travels was so amazing, just incredible. So stick around. Next week we'll have Joshua back on to talk about his trip, and until then, have a great week.
We'd like to give a huge thank you to Anna Waltz Landscape Contracting for their support of Courageously Kind.
Anna Waltz is a family-owned landscape contracting company in Berks County that has served Pennsylvania for over 35 years.
If you're ready to get your landscaping project started, visit annawaltzlandscape.com or call 610-916-7070.
Anna Waltz Landscape Contracting, beautifying Pennsylvania 1 yard at a time.
Thank you so much for listening. If you like this episode, feel free to share it with your friends, your family, or anyone you think might like it too.
And if you want to support the show, leave us a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It really does help. Or check out our merch store at courageouslykind.org. Take good care, and we'll see you back here real soon.